for snapper on a snapper drop, and they can be hand lining for them, and the white shark can come up and grab the fish as the fisherman is pulling it up. And so they end up with both the snapper and the hooks in their gut. Now this snapper isn't one that it... I mean, that's a fresh one.
Right.
That one would have been on the long line that it caught. Whereas this one is in a much more advanced state of decay. In fact, there's a couple in here. There's another one here. So this is from a previous meal.
Right.
Prior to being caught this particular time. So this shark's had a few interactions with...
Now, would he eventually,
fishing.
would her stomach digestive juices destroy these? Or does she do as a whale would and wrap them up and then vomit them up?
These bones do break down. You see how... I mean, this one's starting to break down. There's some thought that some of the bigger material the sharks can regurgitate.
This is a wonderful looking jaw when you see it. It's stubby.
That's a snapper there. In really big items, we suspect they may be able to regurgitate. So that's a snapper. And that's a snapper. Now this is kind of interesting. Yep.
Shovel-nose rotate.
Possibly. This is cartilage. Whilst that's generally true, they're quite adaptive. They will feed on other things, and in certain areas, they may not always be feeding on things like marine mammals. And there's not a lot of seals up the Gulfs, so they feed on what they get.
Right. What is this?
Oh, these are gills. These are gills from a snapper or something. I'd say. This guy is that this isn't the first fishing line he's come across. It's fin rays.
Say that again, Peter. I'm sorry.
Those are the crushing jaws of an eagle ray? Oh my gosh.
It's those pavement teeth they have.
Yes. This is all one, you think? Yeah.
There you go. Look, it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Interesting hooks.
Hmm.
Red ones. Black ones as well.
That's a big fish.
Yeah, it's really very sharp. So it may not have been in it that long. The same sort of cord as this.
Okay, well it's... useful for the meat.
This is a stingray barb?
It is.
And it was just like that?
That's right. We've just found this.
He swallowed that?
And I think I was going to pull it out.
Well, I think that's a kind thing to do.
It's probably a bit... Wow, it's really stuck in there.
Now, she swallowed this, presumably, and would this eventually...
Yeah.
Whoa. Would the flesh insist this and then rejected it, or would this stay there?
Well, I suspect this may well have worked its way right through and come out the other side. That's a distinct possibility, the way it was looking. I mean, this is something that... This is stingray barb.
Yeah, right.
The shark's eaten the stingray. So this barb has passed down through the esophagus into the gut. At some stage, it's got hooked up in the wall of the gut. It's come right through, out into the body cavity, and then found its way over to the musculature on the outside, and it's starting to work its way through there, on its way to the outside, presumably.
What would make it actually begin to move? Would the muscles be trying to reject it? Why would it move at all?
Well, I think just the movement of the shark doesn't take too much for this to move around inside the body. And once it's in there, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Why does it keep going?
Would this cause this animal pain?
Well, I have to be honest here. I don't know a lot about the pain receptors in sharks, but it's not unusual to find stingray barbs lodged in these animals. And they can only go one way once they get in. These backward pointing barbs stop the thing from coming out, and presumably when it's working its body it doesn't take much to keep that just wiggling along and just wiggling in. But just what it's doing to it, there's certainly a hole there. There doesn't look like to be any sort of extreme infection there at all. So one wonders whether that will eventually work its way right through and just come out.
Just come out the other side. Yes, it certainly isn't encysted. There's no infection. There's no nothing there. No.
Doesn't appear to be at all. Oh, you do find stingray barbs in the jaw. You find them in the mouth sometimes. But obviously they can get out into the body cavity and keep going.
Do these animals suffer from what we would call infections? Does anybody know? I mean, because you know, there's the old thing about sharks don't get cancer. Do sharks get bacteriological infections?
Some, I believe some do. It's certainly not an area that I know much about in sharks.
It really tells you something about the lifestyle of sharks, though. I mean,
they can eat things that are sharp and spiny, and they can clearly deal with it.
Yeah, obviously.
good. I wouldn't trust to sit up and start putting your arm down mid.
Oh, the top's still rolling out? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Not quite yet. It's the lift is falling back. Can you pronate the upper jaw with your hands? I've never, needless to say, never tried that.
I just want to check that it's not going to slip out.
Right? That's true.
So yeah, in the old days, there were assumptions based on ignorance that the animal didn't need its eyes because these were so sensitive, that its olfactory bulbs were great, but really all it had to do was just to close and eat anything.
Yeah. There's no doubt that the olfactory bulbs, the sense organs that they use for smell, are really highly developed in white sharks. They're huge. But like I say, the eyes of white sharks are also huge. The muscles that move them are massive. Now, from what we know of what others have done now over the last 25 years, have done with the eye, is that we now know that they've got very, very good vision underwater. And they've probably got even colour vision, probably good colour vision as well. They've got the rods and cones just like we have. And the eye is extremely well developed. So they could probably see the limit of visibility underwater.
So sensory, from a Renaissance animal, they do everything.
Sure. They're just extremely well adapted to feeling, to seeing, to smelling, to sensing their environment, which is what they need to survive.
Right. And yet again, nature has been perfectly balanced until we interfere with the process,
Sure.
with lines or hooks or whatever.
The olfaction is an interesting area because a lot of people see nostrils like this and they equate nostrils with breathing like with people. But the nostrils in sharks are nothing to do with breathing. It's all to do with sensing the chemicals in the water, with smell. Mm-hmm. And in white sharks, that from what we know of the structure of the olfactory bulb behind here, which is very large, they've got probably a very, very good sense of smell. And they probably use that sense of smell to find prey and to help communicate, really, with their other colleagues. Pheromones, sex pheromones, for example, may be very important to these guys in terms of finding a mate.
And this, I think our terminology also is inadequate to deal with this, because this isn't smell in our sense. It's probably closer to our taste sense in that coming through there.
Yeah, it's all a matter of detecting chemicals in the medium that you're in, whether it be in air or in water.
It seems the combination of things that's the most spectacular.
The lateral line going right down the body, that's a pretty good aerial, going right down the body to listen out for water movement and for vibration in the environment. They can hear, they do have ears, but they're inside, and they can hear low frequency sound and react to that.
You wonder, is there an acoustic bulb similar to the olfactory bulb? Is it hearing or is it sensing with these?
They do have a sense of hearing. They do have a lot of the apparatus that are very similar to a vertebrate, a normal vertebrate. But they don't have openings it's like little ears on the side. In fact, most sharks appear to have a couple of little openings right on the top of the head, that lead down into these inner ear chambers. But there's low frequency vibrations that they can pick up, compression waves, sound underwater. They can sense the environment around them through other aspects of water movement and sense water movement around other objects around them. That's the way they feel their environment. That's something that we really have no sensation of doing. They can smell very well. They've got these beautifully adapted and well-developed sensory areas here where they can smell. And then they have these little dots here, the ampullae of Lorenzini, which are the electrical receptors. Because anything in the ocean, anything live in the ocean, will generate a minor electric field. Things moving through the ocean across the Earth's surface will generate a mild electric field. And these guys can detect that. And it may well be that they're using this to navigate as well.
And very little is known about navigation, isn't it?
Very little.
Yeah.
We know very little about movement patterns in any of these sort of large sharks like this, white sharks particularly. That's some of the typical prey that you'd see.
One's a sawing, one's a grasping,
Well, they're all serrated.
Yeah.
These are obviously more adapted to puncturing and grabbing than these are to cutting.
Yeah, I mean, when they bite, they kind of yeah, I mean, I have to be perfectly honest with you. My hair isn't
problem.
too